I did my case study on the interesting country of Japan. That is how you write Japan in Japanese. Japan is a huge island off the coast of China, Korea, and Russia, and lies in the northwestern part of the Pacific Ocean. When I think of Japan, I think of two things. First, I think of sushi. Second, I think of those awesome samurais with their cool outfits. However, this is not true, and hopefully after this presentation you will realize that Japan is much more than that, as I did throughout my deep study of Japan. I quickly realized that Japan's history more resembles a roller coaster. Let's begin with a brief overview and timeline of Japan's history. We'll start with Japan's early history, also known as pre-1600. During this time, the country consisted of hundreds of domains ruled by daimyos. Daimyos were basically like mayors of a town who happened to have castles and small military forces. During this time, central government pretty much didn't exist. Until the Tokugawa period started, which lasted from 1600 to 1860. This was a time of great prosperity, but began with Tokugawa Ieyasu, a powerful daimyo, defeating all other powerful daimyos who posed threat to him, granting his family power over Japan. During this time there was less isolation, however religions other than Buddhism were very strongly prohibited. The next period was the Meiji period, which lasted from 1860 to 1955. In this time, Japan became completely open to foreign trade and other ideas. This influx of new ideas and trade led to Japan's quick industrialization. In this time, Japan's economy also boomed. New ideas influenced policy, and Japan almost overnight became extremely powerful and extremely confident. This confidence led to the invasion of China in 1937. But shortly after Japan swept over China, the small island country had spread too thin and Chinese forces pushed them back and Japan was forced to leave. However, Japan was not done yet. A few years later, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and began its part in World War II. But after expanding over the entire Western Pacific, they yet again had spread too thin and were forced into surrendering after 2 atomic bombs. After they had lost World War II, Japan was occupied by the U.S. The U.S. attempted to instill a democracy. The change in government policy, the creation of a constitution, and the U.S. forcing Japan to trade led to a huge boom in Japan's economy. It quickly became advanced in new technologies and in things like the automobile industry. Yet again, Japan's economy boomed. Until the economic crash in 1989, which was due to the fact from earthquakes and other terrorist attacks within Japan. And today, Japan is slowly but surely recovering from the economic crash in 1989. Now let's talk about Japan's modern government and regime since 1947. Japan is considered a constitutional monarchy and consists of 3 portions. The first part is the emperor, second part is the parliament, and the third part is the prime minister. Let's begin with parliament. The parliament consists of 480 seats, and it is bicameral, meaning it has 2 parties. The 2 parties are known as the Social Liberal Democratic Party and the Conservative Democratic Party, which is very similar to here in the U.S. where we have liberal and conservative. By popular vote, People in the parliament are elected every 4 years. Now let's talk about the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the head of government. He's in charge of making all the policies, and he is elected from Parliament. The final portion of the Constitution, the democratic monarchy, is the Emperor. And the Emperor serves as more of a symbolic leader than an actual powerful leader. But he does have the power to veto whoever Parliament decides to elect as Prime Minister. Now let's talk about Japan's political identity. Geography plays a huge role in Japan's political identity, as it is an island in the middle of the Pacific, or not in the middle, in the western part of the Pacific. Because it's an island, it is further away from influences from other countries, and it was easier early on for the government to isolate the country, preventing outside ideas because of the water barriers. And because the leaders were afraid of outside influence, restriction on any religion other than Buddhism quickly arose, causing issues within the country. But the government was strong enough to suppress protests and criticisms within the country. During this class, we discussed primordialism and constructivism, and whether or not Japan is primordialistic or constructivistic. Primordialism is the idea that country's political identity does not change, it is not influenced, and does not change. Constructivism is the belief that individuals have some choice over what their political identity is. Under these two definitions, Japan, in my opinion, is constructivism because their political identity has changed over time. But in order for Japan to be constructivism, it had to have been influenced by outside sources and internal sources. One source was religion. In modern Japan, religion is non-existent, and in 2000, 76.6% of Japanese citizens did not consider themselves religious. And oftentimes religion plays a huge role in influencing policy, as it has here in the United States. Another influence would be the gender roles within Japan. Gender roles also are non-existent, and one could argue that gender roles are deeply rooted in religion, and because religion doesn't exist in Japan, neither do gender roles. Equality between the two genders is extremely equal within this country. The third influence I'll mention here is the fact that the U.S. occupied Japan after World War II and forced them somewhat to make a constitution, which directly impacted Japan's policies. Overall, Japan's history is a long road of ups and downs, and I really enjoyed having this country as my case study. Thank you for watching my presentation.